The luminosity lock RapidMask system used in the V5 panel has a lot of advantages over the previous V4 system, but they aren't necessarily apparent at first glance, so I'm going to take a few minutes to point out some of the advances. These differences will mean the most to you if you're used to using the V4 panel or other previous versions of TK Actions. The RapidMask system is, as the name indicates, faster. Masks such as the Lights 1 and Darks 1 are always quick to make, but the calculations required to make the more complex Lights and Darks 5, Midtones 3, and many of the zone masks used to take several seconds to generate in previous versions of the panel, especially on very high resolution images and on slower computers. The RapidMask system significantly speeds up the generation of complex masks, so they can be made and viewed without having to have them preloaded into the Channels panel. Previous action panels used a selection-based approach to generating luminosity masks. When a mask button was clicked, this would load a selection of those luminosity values, and then a mask would need to be created from that selection. This inserted one 8-bit step into the mask creation process. Not really an issue, but also not necessary. Also, it's difficult to evaluate how a luminosity mask will affect an adjustment by looking at the selection lines or marching ants. To evaluate a mask in the V4 panel, you could either use the View button to create a red overlay of that luminosity selection, and then if you wanted to compare that to a different mask, like a Lights 2, you'd have to load that selection and then view that. The other way to evaluate masks was to generate all of the Lights or Darks masks in the Channels panel and then look at them one by one to compare and evaluate. By comparison, the V5 mask modules are entirely mask-based. The 8-bit selection step has now been entirely eliminated unless a selection is specifically needed for particular techniques such as mask painting. As we saw with the intro panel, you can output a selection of any mask by using the Select button. The mask-based system makes the process of comparing and evaluating masks much easier. You can just simply click on any mask you want and it'll be generated, enabling you to look at different masks and quickly compare them with each other. Being able to infinitize or otherwise modify any mask and watch how that modification is happening in real time live on the mask view is a big advantage that the V4 did not have. Mask creation in the V5 panel is more intuitive and makes your workflow just that much quicker and smoother. The RapidMask system, in combination with the various output options, also makes trying out different masks with an adjustment really easy. For example, if I started out with this mask and added it to a curves adjustment layer, and then used the curves adjustment to darken the midtones and let that mask control that adjustment. But then I wanted to see what that same adjustment would look like with different luminosity masks. I could simply just pick a different rapid mask and apply it to that layer. And if I didn't like that one and wanted to try a different one, I could just load a different rapid mask and apply that. So it's just that easy to switch out masks on any layer. And now I could go to the History panel and step back through those different masks to see which one I like the best for that adjustment. Also, having the actual black and white luminosity values to evaluate masks with is also more accurate than using the red overlay of the View mode in the V4 panel. The red overlay is easy to see, but it doesn't completely accurately show the feathering and tonal variations in the luminosity mask. Being able to view the actual mask on the image shows you exactly what the mask will look like. The speed at which you can evaluate luminosity masks with the RapidMask system makes finding the right zone mask or half zone mask much better, and also eliminates the need for all of those off-center midtone mask combination buttons that we had in the V4 panel. It used to be a bit of a process finding the exact right zone mask, but now they're generated so quickly you can just click through each one and see how they shift with the different tones until you finally find the one that targets the exact tonal range that you're looking for. If you want a broader off-center mask like the combo buttons did in the V4 panel, you can simply begin with one of the narrow zone masks that's in the right tonal range and then use the expand button to expand it. And you could also use any of the other modification buttons, such as maybe the infinity button, to expand or contract or increase tonal separation. As we saw in the last chapter, being able to mix and match the use of the luminosity lock buttons, the mask spectrum buttons, the pick button, the mask modification buttons, and the output buttons offers the ability to make almost any mask you can imagine, and even some you might not be able to imagine, very quickly and efficiently. For example, it takes just a few seconds to create a blue channel Zone 7 mask and then expand it and then apply an auto levels to it and then apply it to an adjustment layer, create a selection of it, or save it to the channels panel. Finally, because we're viewing the creation of the mask in real time, in addition to the customization buttons, like the infinity button, we can also make other custom modifications directly to the mask by hand, such as using a black brush to entirely paint out portions of a mask. Now, when the mask is applied or saved, it'll include those handmade customizations as well. The goal of the TK Actions panels has always been to give photographers access to more and better tools and techniques to help them be more creative and open-ended, rather than be a canned set of filters or a cookbook of prescribed recipes to follow. The V5 panel takes the evolution of freedom, power, and creativity in a whole new direction and opens up even more possibilities than before.